Look at a map. You see borders. I see scars. Every anthem you've ever heard. A victory speech set to music. We like to pretend peace is the opposite of war. It isn't. Peace is what happens when killing gets too expensive. That's not a wish. It's a description. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good. You're finally looking at history without the perfume. Here's the rule. If talking is cheaper than fighting, leaders talk. If fighting is cheaper than talking, they fight. So, why does talking fail? 3 reasons you can feel in your bones. 1. Bluffing. No leader ever shows all their cards. 2. Promises are weak. You can't force tomorrow's honesty. And 3. Some things just can't be split. Thrones, holy sites, survival. So peace isn't the opposite of war. It's balance, held in place by force. Let's travel back in time. Kadesh, 1274 BCE, Egypt under Ramses II versus the Hittites under Muwatalli II. They smash into each other near the city of Kadesh. The battle is a brutal, bloody mess. No clean victor, just exhaustion. Years later, they carve a treaty into stone, the first known peace treaty in history. It promises friendship and mutual aid. It sounds noble, doesn't it? But really, it's just a pause. Both sides stop because the price of continuing the fight got stupidly high. They agree to be friends, while keeping the option to break each other later. Now let's jump forward to Rome. The famous Pax Romana, the Roman peace. It wasn't about harmony and holding hands. It was administration after conquest. The Romans built roads not for tourism, but to move legions and collect taxes. They set up courts to impose order, with legions always standing in the background, just in case. Call it peace if you like. But it walked like war, and it paid for itself like war. Or consider China's warring states period, from 475 to 221 BCE. For over 2 centuries, China tore itself apart. What finally ended the chaos? Not a sermon on brotherhood. It was a state, Qin. The first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, unified China through overwhelming force. He centralized law, standardized weights and measures, built roads for his armies, and created a bureaucracy designed to feed the war machine. Peace arrived only when one power gained a total monopoly on violence. It feels calm on the surface, but that's because dissent has nowhere left to breathe. Fast forward to 1868, Meiji, Japan. In a shockingly short time, Japan scrapes off centuries of feudal rust and sprints into the machine age. They build railways, create a modern conscript army, erect factories, and launch a powerful navy. Why the frantic rush? Because in the modern world, weak states get eaten. Survival means proving you can fight. Within decades, Japan fights and wins against bigger, more established powers like China and Russia. It's the same story, different chapter. War is the final exam, and peace is the certificate you get after you pass. Europe has had its own resets. In 1648, after 30 years of religious slaughter, the powers of Europe signed the Peace of Westphalia. This wasn't about loving thy neighbor. It was about creating rules and boundaries for rivalry. In 1814, after Napoleon's rampage, the Congress of Vienna choreographed a new balance of power, trying to manage conflicts so they wouldn't explode tomorrow. It wasn't love. It was logistics with better manners. Then, 1914 and 1939, the Industrial Revolution scales killing to an unimaginable degree. Trenches, bombed-out cities, entire economies mobilized for total war. And then, the bomb arrives. And it changes the math completely. Suddenly, all-out war between great powers becomes a bet you simply cannot afford to place. This is deterrence, but deterrence isn't peace. It's fear symmetry. You don't attack me because I can end your civilization, and I don't attack you for the exact same reason. The bomb didn't make us more moral. It just made us more careful. And that's the key. The violence didn't disappear. It just migrated. It moved into proxy wars fought in other countries, into economic sanctions and blockades, covert operations, drone strikes, and cyber attacks. The scoreboard is still active, even when the flags on the map don't move. And careful still bleeds. It just bleeds somewhere else, out of sight. So, let's drop the romance. Leaders are calculators. When a leader thinks, I can't afford victory, they negotiate. When they think, it's cheaper to rule you than to raise your cities, they administer an empire. When they think, I need more time, they rearm, rewrite the story to justify the next war, and wait for a better opportunity. Look around you right now. Nations still spend trillions of dollars on defense. Thousands of nuclear warheads still sit silently in silos and submarines. If peace were real in the way we sing about it in our anthems, those numbers would be falling. They aren't. Let's bust a few myths. Myth 1. Democracies don't fight each other. This is mostly true and mostly a recent phenomenon, but it doesn't stop them from fighting non-democracies. It's a constraint, not a cure. Myth 2. Trade prevents war. Trade definitely raises the price of conflict, which is a good thing. But let's be honest, those shipping lanes stay open because powerful navies make sure they stay open. Myth 3. We're becoming less violent as a species. Yes, norms and laws matter, but they only matter when someone is willing and able to enforce them. And enforcement, at its root, is still about force. It may be less bloody and more bureaucratic, but it's force nonetheless. There's a saying, people seek peace because they're weak, and often that's true. If I can't compel you to do what I want, I have to bargain with you. But the strong choose peace too strategically. If a stronger power believes it can win later at a lower cost, it will wait. Restraint isn't softness. It's timing. So here is the fundamental axiom. Peace appears when the cost of fighting becomes higher than the potential prize for winning. That's it. No angels or sudden moral awakenings required. It's a cold, hard calculation. And as the cost of conventional war changes, the battlefield moves. When tanks and jets get too pricey, the conflict shifts. Drones make attrition warfare cheap and deniable. Cyber attacks can cripple a nation's power grid, its banks, its hospitals. Space becomes the ultimate high ground. Blind my satellites, and my military goes deaf. Lawfare and sanctions turn courts and currencies into weapons. Tomorrow's borders might not shift because of a military invasion, but because of a systemic collapse engineered from half a world away. It's still war. It just wears a new uniform made of servers and spreadsheets. So the next time you hear a leader on a stage praising peace, ask yourself the grown-up question. Who did the math and who paid the bill? Peace isn't the opposite of war. Peace is war's receipt, the proof that someone, somewhere, paid a price so high that everyone else decided to pause. And here's the darker truth. War is essential for humans. We cannot live without it. War created the state. States are built by war and destroyed by war. Throughout history, that has never changed. Even in entertainment, we reach for war. Video games, movies, sports, football, basketball, boxing, these are just less violent ways of fighting. A friendly war against your opponent. Because war is the engine of human beings. And without it, we, sadly, don't know how to live. The final question is the hardest. Can we, as a species, evolve beyond war? It's an open question. And the only honest answer is, we don't know. For now. Thanks for watching. If this gave you something to think about, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. See you in the next one.